Joyce Montgomery with a year of inspired action. We were sorry to learn of the recent passing of Dee Copenhaver, who used to be a member here for, I think, 17 years. Her funeral will be this Saturday. We also had just learned that board member Preston Tyler lost his mother this week, and we will be passing a card around for him. We have a congratulations to Pegram and Bonnie Johnson on the birth of their new grandson during our holiday break. Archer, it's Pegram's daughter's third son. And we want to give a nice shout out to Sherry Dillon, our good friend who is visiting us today. And I don't see Melissa here today, but we want to give a congratulations to Melissa Woodson for being on the front page of the Roanoke Times for her great leadership in getting the Ram House a new house. So yay for Melissa. And I know a lot of us have a little sweat equity into that as well. So thank everybody who helped her and get that job done. All right, our introspection today and our Pledge of Allegiance is by John Montgomery.
Thank you, President Joyce. When I was talking with Preston and learned of the loss of his mother, we were talking about the introspection for this week, and I realized that, in the scheme of things, when you lose a parent or a relative or a friend, some of the Kiwanis details are pretty insignificant. And I said, Preston, don't worry about the introspection today. I'll be happy to do it. And then I got to thinking about our good friend Bob Birch, who was a member here for a long time and a strong leader and handled the new member inductions and did everything in the club for many years. He did the new member inductions, and when he was doing them, he talked about people's dash. On your tombstone, you have a date, 2 dates, start date and an end date, but the dash is really what matters. It's just a little part, but what you do in that dash is what it matters. And so when I was talking with Preston and putting together an agenda, and I thought about the new additions that Pegram has, his family, and the losses of Dee Copenhaver and Preston's mother, I thought about that dash, and I Googled it, and I found the poem that's known as the Dash Poem, and I wanted to share that today with you as our introspection. And this is how it goes. It's written by Linda Ellis in 1996, which is about the time I joined Kiwanis. I suspect it might have inspired Bob Birch. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little time is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel. And be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, liberty and justice for all.
Going to call Neil McNally up to introduce our guest. And as he's coming up, I want you to know today we are also going to be using a lavalier. Our speaker will be using it, and if anybody stands here and we can't hear you, you will get this put on you. So if you come to make an announcement or talk and don't talk into the mic, we're going to pin this on you. So get close to the mic.
With that admonition, I am Neil McNally. I am a new member, and I was sponsored by Sherry and David Hartman. Today, as guests, we have Jonathan Degenhart. He's with Wells Fargo's advisors. He's the guest of Judy Clark. And I guess we just have everybody stand up for a moment when you call your name. There we go. And then we have Kate Mahoney. She is with MKB, guest of Jeff Vick. And then everyone already clapped for her, but she's on the list. I'm going to call her name out. Sherry Dillon is a past president. She's the guest of John Montgomery today. Welcome you all.
Very good, Neil. All right. Next, we're going to have the Ducky Derby. Here he comes. Oh, he forgot his duck. His hat. So what do you have to tell us about the Ducky Derby?
No quacking this week. Actually, I was just going to make an announcement. Lo and behold, I end up being on the agenda, and there's time here, so I'll talk for just a couple of minutes. Most of you are here 2 weeks ago. We had a week break last week, so some of you may have forgotten already about the Ducky Derby, and some of you might not have heard at all. But anyway, we're currently in the midst of the Ducky Derby, an endeavor by the Kiwanis Capital District, of which our club is a member, to raise money that supports the pediatric hospitals within the district. There are 11, one of which is up the street here, the Carilion Children's Hospital. These hospitals obviously do incredible work. Carilion Hospital has an amazing premature intensive care unit. They also deal with children with acute disease, children with chronic disease, children with malignancies, and children who have been injured in some sort of traumatic situation. Last year, I think the Ducky Derby created some $4,000 for Carilion, more than our club contributed, I would suspect. Anyway, there are 3 ways to contribute. You can use the QR code that is on this flyer on your table. That's the most difficult way to do this. The second most difficult way is to go home to your computer and type in Capital District Ducky Derby. Let's see, John, what do you type in?
Capital District Ducky Derby.
See, it's easy to remember. So you can go home and type in Capital District Ducky Derby, and the directions are very straightforward. If that is too difficult, the easiest way is to come to that desk right outside that door on your way out and give me a check or money, and I'll take care of it for you. Um, now, uh, we just started this campaign, at least in our club, weeks ago. The campaign district-wide started something earlier than that. I'll be proud to say, however, that having looked at the current results just before I came down to the meeting, we now stand in fourth place in the district, which is a really dramatic start. We're not that far behind the current leading club, which is Danville. To date, after we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, there have been 12 members who have contributed. There was one who had contributed before that. That would be Don Witt, who we know has an association with this Ducky Derby that goes back for a long time. He was probably the second person in the district to contribute. Anyway, that's our current standings. Some of you said last time, Reef, I'll catch up with you at our next meeting. I'm going to hold you to that. I'll be out to the desk. If somebody else is so inspired, please stop by, or you can use the more complicated methods if you want to remain anonymous. Thank you all. And like I said, no quacking. Mm-hmm.
Is it short? Thank you, Reed. Now, yes, it's getting to be the time of the year where we are starting to work on our budget for 26-27. So David Hartman would like to talk to us about that. So everybody listen.
Hello, everybody.
Is it on? Is this that little thing
Nope,
in his pocket on?
Does it need to work?
Yeah. Good grief. I have to think of everything. No, just kidding. Okay, you're on, Dave.
Okay. As you know, I'm president-elect and I'm preparing for my upcoming year, 2026, 2027. Can everybody hear me?
Is it close enough?
Am I close enough?
Y'all already this support?
Yeah, I want to make sure people can hear me.
That's
Um,
probably better.
So I'm reaching out to all of you who are chairmen of committee to consider several things. One is, do you want to stay as chairman of your committee for the upcoming 26-27 year? Number two, you want to check your committee members and maybe solicit other members if you can. And then the budget. If you could figure out your budget, and there is a form, John, our treasurer, who's always on top of things, he has a form that you can fill out. You also can get it online, and he'd be glad to send it to you through email. And John, thank you for being so prompt on this. But we would like the budget for the committees to be submitted by August 1st. And then the final thing, I want to ask all of our members to please review the various committees and choose 1, 2, or 3 committees that you could be part of and contribute to our Kiwanis Club. So I just ask you to please consider what committees you want to be on. Those of you who are new, I ask you to think about what committee you'd like to be part of. So thank you all so much.
I'm back. Announcements. We are ready for announcements, but I'm not. Okay. Announcements. We have SLP committee and the fund committee meeting today at 1:40. We have club meets tonight at 5:30 at Crystal Spring Grocery. Officers meet tomorrow Officers meet tomorrow at 10:30, and we have our board meeting on Monday at noon at the Water Authority. And Mike, would you like to come up and give an announcement?
Was it me?
Yeah, really. Thank you, President Joyce, and good afternoon, everybody. Mike McAvoy, and I'm here on behalf of the USA Cycling Mountain Bike Championships, which will be in Roanoke next week. It's a great honor to have them. It's the second or third year they've come back here. They love the area. If you're not a mountain biker, Roanoke is probably the East Coast capital for mountain biking. It's got a great reputation. And I don't know if you guys saw I think it was in the Roanoke Times, but also on CNN that, Roanoke was actually named a top 10 city to visit this summer. So, for a lot of reasons. So how about a round of applause there? So we're going to have 1,500 racers and their families here all next week. So the large endurance race up at Carbons Cove starts Sunday, and they race throughout the week at various events, and then I think also finish up Saturday at Explorer Park. So there's races all week. They still need some volunteers, and we're doing pretty good on volunteers, but we need 2 or 3 more. So on your table is a handout about it. You can take these with you, and similar to Reef, there's a handy QR code there. Go ahead and scan that. If you volunteered for the marathon in the past, it's the same system. You're already in there. All you have to do is just, it'll recognize you, sign in, and you can go and pick the time you want. I've noticed from the sign-ins that a number of Kiwanis have signed up for Tuesday afternoon at Elmwood Park. They do a short track kind of race there. And then, or Wednesday afternoon after this meeting next week, same thing. They're doing short track races Tuesday and Wednesday there. So right down the street. So really handy. And I guess I want to have finally, after other than encouraging you to sign up, I want to shout out to Ken Briggs. Now, you want to talk about a Roanoke ambassador. He was texting me last week, and Ken was up in Chicago and actually started talking to somebody in line at an event he was at. And turns out that guy's coming to Roanoke for the bike races. So I don't know if Ken gets credit for encouraging that, because I think he was already signed up. But Ken made a friend there, and I think we want to, show off the city really well. So please sign up and help out the bike races for next week. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for brag bucks. Anybody like to do a brag buck? Please come up for $2. You can talk about anything you would like, and the money goes to the foundation. Oh, we got some braggers.
Some braggers, yep. Talk close.
Okay, I've got a couple, John, to bill me for. So one of I have to say, I think my favorite way of deepening a friendship is to volunteer together alongside one of my friends. And I've had an opportunity to do that during our break. So I want to brag on this friend, our newish Kiwanian, Tom Bamford. If you would stand, I want Tom to be recognized for his work at the nature park in that heat we had. He was there every day, making sure that our garden could survive. Thank you, Tom. Tom is such a handy man. I mean, we had broken hoses to deal with, weeds this tall, plus a scorching heat. So if you don't have one yet, I want to make sure you get Larry to thank you, Tom, for all your help. So what a delightful week. And also, I want to give a shout out to Jeff Vick. Talk about inspired action. Jeff mobilized a whole army of us to help out at Ram House, and it truly was the best investment of our volunteer effort to help such vulnerable people be able to not just move, but to really have services greatly enhanced by their new location on Elm. So thank you, Jeff, for helping us be a part of such an important effort.
I'm Don Witt. I'm going to eat the mic. Okay. I'm here to on the table, there's a flyer about afternoon at the movies. Many of you heard Kevin Matheson play with Judy and his beautiful violin music. He and his brother and a pianist are doing a concert this Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock at Heights Community Church over in Grandin Port area. And I would invite you. It's free and a lot of good music is going to be played. I'm going to list a few. Laura's theme from Dr. Zhivago, Chariots of Fire, Schindler's List, Fiddler on the Roof, and many more. So it'll be an enjoyable afternoon. And he is a fantastic violinist. So be sure to join him.
I'm Andre Brooks. I'm chair of the Fund Committee, and I want to brag on Fred Jeter. Fred came to me at a meeting and said, "You're going to the Stony Brook Winery for one of the fun events." I speak Batatat-ese. That's a word I made up. But he offered to contact the winery to be sure our arrangements were made and to help set up at the event. So Fred was just such great help. He came over. First, he went to the winery and got everything set up. Well, if you remember Saturday, there was a little bit of rain, like it poured. Well, Fred arranged for us to be under the pavilion. So we were all dry and had a great party under the pavilion. Not only that, but he came to meet us an hour early and helped us carry all the things in. David came over to help him set up as well. And he was just great help throughout the whole thing. And also when we were packing things up and hauling them back to the car. There were some others I want to brag on. Jeff. I think Jeff is the only one here today. We must have worn everybody out. But he helped us. And Jim, Kenny. And of course, I better not leave out my husband, Everett, who was there every step of the way.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Vick, and yes, I am a bragger. I'm proud to be up here today to brag on a couple of other members. Melissa Woodson's got a lot of attention today, as she deserves. I don't know. I came up here to brag on you all, but I think I'm going to turn that over to Melissa and give her the credit for inspiring the action that mobilized many of us and had Ken Briggs driving a 20-foot truck through traffic repeatedly on those days and had Bert and Steve driving their pickup trucks, and it was like lifting. We actually moved 5 tons of canned goods from the old Ram House to the new Ram House in the heat, loading up containers. 3 mornings of work, but we all came together, and to praise Melissa is really an understatement. What she's doing and juggling all the balls to protect our most vulnerable inhabitants is truly miraculous. And I was very happy to be a part of that. But that just shows how we can come together to impact things in our community. And Melissa really took notice. Now, we arranged for newspaper coverage and everything else. And I'm not so worried about whether they mention Kiwanis. That we're not the centerpiece. We're here to support people and get things done. And we certainly did. And everybody who contributed, thank you very much. Also, I was asked to, on behalf of the membership committee, to let you know that we're in the process of planning a fall time social for recruiting people. We do not have a date yet, but we're going to be publishing details before too long. I just wanted to remind you to watch the October space. There will be an event where we're going to invite people to bring prospects so that we can pitch Kiwanis to them. Don't have details yet, but they're here. I just want to brag on Fred Jeter and Gene Bollendorf and others from the board who have been putting that together. I think that's going to be a terrific thing when it all pans out. So thank you.
Thanks for all those brags. Now I'd like to ask Bart Wertler to come up and introduce our guest.
Good afternoon. Let me move this up. Everybody hear me okay? I don't have the special mic that's being reserved for our speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Paul Nestor. Paul is the president and CEO of Roanoke Gas Company and RGC Resources Incorporated. Paul has led the company since 2020 and previously was the company's chief financial officer. Roanoke Gas has been a part of our community since 1883. That's not 1983, that's 1883, growing alongside the city of Roanoke. Today, it provides safe, reliable natural gas service to more than 65,000 customers throughout the Roanoke Valley. Under Paul's leadership, the company has continued to invest in safety, infrastructure, and innovation, including renewable natural gas initiatives and expanded pipeline capacity that support both economic growth and long-term energy reliability in our region. Beyond the company's business success, Paul and the Roanoke Gas team have maintained a strong commitment to community service, supporting the organizations and initiatives that make the Roanoke Valley a better place to live, work, and play. That spirit of service is something we as Kiwanians certainly appreciate. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Today, Paul will share his perspective on the future of energy in our region, the opportunity and challenges facing the natural gas industry, and how Roanoke Gas is working to meet the needs of our growing community. Please join me in giving a warm Kiwanian welcome to my good friend, Paul Nestor.
Good afternoon, and Bart, thank you for that kind introduction. And President Montgomery, thank you for helping with the microphone. Okay.
Can we put it over time? All right, let's see what happens.
Perfect. How's that? Thank you so much, and I truly consider it an honor and pleasure to be with you today. I've heard so much about your fine group over many, many years through our good friend and business partner, Mike McAvoy. I'll talk about that a little more. And I know Sam Lineberger is also a member of this esteemed body. And John, I and my wife and I are long friends of Bob and Martha Bursch. And despite that friendship, I actually did not know Bob was a member of this fine group and used to love to go to the Texas Tavern with Bob there quite often. So thank you for your great remarks. I do want to, before I get into the presentation, I also want to just thank you. Mike called me back in early 2025 to say, Paul, we need some help with the Star sponsorship. I didn't know what he was talking about and was really busy at the time and just said yes. And and that's because I have a great trust in Mike, really. And a few weeks later, he called. Well, part of the sponsorship is, you get to honor, or the Kiwanis will honor the Star in somebody's behalf. And do you have any ideas on that? No. Mike, you and the good folks here can, proceed with that, which you all did. And I just want to say, I never had the opportunity to meet Ms. Williams. Certainly had a lot of discussion with Ron Boyd and Annette Lewis and Ted Edlick and other folks who knew her very well. As you all know, LOA spun out of TAP. And what a remarkable lady who suffered, obviously, a terrible, terrible tragedy. But I just want to thank you, through Mike, for giving us the opportunity to be a very small part, I would say, of what you all did to recognize her. It was incredibly special. And it just, frankly, it blessed our company. We weren't expecting that, didn't need that or want that, if you will. It just happened, I think, as a result of really the great effort that you all did there. So again, we sincerely thank you for giving us that special opportunity. All right, Mike, maybe we can hit the first slide. I thought it may make sense. Let's just talk about maybe the broader energy backdrop. And we don't have time today to start internationally and work nationally. We'll just start domestically, if you will. We'll talk about the United States. And from there, we'll zero in and bring it back home to this place we know and love called the Roanoke Valley. Go ahead, Mike. And a lot of this materials from the American Gas Association, and the American Gas Association pulls most of their data from the Federal Energy Information Administration, the EIA. Some of it's from the International Energy folks, but all this data is well researched and sourced, and happy to help you with any questions you may have on that. I failed to mention, I wanted to say good afternoon to Rupert Cutler and John Bradshaw. Thank you for joining us via Zoom. I consider both those fine gentlemen great friends. And in fact, when I came to the gas company, Rupert's one of the first people I met at a function there, and just really enjoyed getting to know him over time. But the shale revolution, as it's known in the United States, is nearing almost 20 years of age. It really started there in the 2007, 2008 timeframe. As you all remember, the Great Recession, right? That was dominating all the headlines. Really, the shale revolution was not a front page news thing for obvious reasons, right? We had a lot of other front page news in 2007, 8, and 9. But what the shale revolution has really meant to this country, and we'll talk about electricity in just a minute, is truly remarkable. And I like the sort of the headline there, the most important energy story in our lifetime. And I think that is true. What you're seeing there is natural gas production in the primary energy or natural gas basins in the United States. Mike, thank you. Some of you have heard me say this before. There's only one thing cheap in America right now: natural gas. And on the left of the slide there, if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website and you look at inflation data, that's on a trailing 12-month basis through the end of May. And I just excerpted energy. We all know what fuel oil and gasoline and diesel fuel has done over the last 12-month period. Most of it this year, of course, electricity. And then you see at the bottom there, utility gas service. That's the lowest number in the energy chart there at 3%. All items, the very top item, if you go to the 4% inflation. But again, this is the statistic. You can decide for yourself what you're seeing. I realize the chart on the right's a little hard to see, but it's a great analysis of natural gas prices over these last 20 years. The area shaded in gray are the inflation-adjusted prices from just prior to that shale revolution. And you may remember, even here in Roanoke, running through Roanoke Gas, 2008, 2009, 2010, natural gas prices were in the $10 to $15 per decatherm range. Today, they're $3 at the Henry Hub. And when you have inflation adjust, which is what that chart has done, the gap there is truly, truly magnificent. Only cheap thing in America, Bart, natural gas. How many of you read the Cardinal News? I'm curious, by show of hands. Okay, a pretty good crowd here. This is good. That's probably another topic for another day about the lack of press in our country and the lack of good information. But I like the Cardinal News. And if you read yesterday's Cardinal News, Dwayne Yancey beat me to the punch. I didn't know if you all had shared my presentation with him, but he did an opinion piece that's quite lengthy, quite thorough, talking about electricity generation over this most recent holiday weekend and the heat wave. I encourage you to read it. It's a little wonky, if you will, a lot of statistics, a lot of charts. He's using the same data I have from the PJM, which is the Regional Electricity Transmission Organization. And quite simply, I put lights and air conditioning here. And again, he goes into more detail, but the lights and air conditioning were on primarily due to natural gas over this heat wave. And again, there's incredible data to support that. I've trimmed this down a little bit. But when you look at the pie chart of all the sources of fuel, if you will, that are generating electricity, this is again from July 2nd, the hottest day in the period. You can see natural gas, coal is still, a big part of that, and of course, nuclear is also still a big part of it. The other renewable sources are there, but they're frankly insignificant. And if you look at wind, they give you a nice wind chart. I didn't paste it into the slide deck here, but if you think back to last week, was the wind blowing during the middle of the day when it was 102 degrees? It was not. There was almost no electric generation from wind during the day. Solar, of course, did fine. It was very sunny. No solar at night. Dwayne Yancey goes into a lot more detail on that. One of the great stories with this shale revolution and the increased use of natural gas is emissions reduction. And quite simply, natural gas is, by a real order of magnitude, cleaner than coal. And there's been a lot of electricity generation that is fuel switched from coal to natural gas. In fact, we've seen that at one of our prominent manufacturing facilities here in the Valley, Roanoke Cement. That was primarily a coal-fired facility, and they have completely switched to natural gas, and we're happy about that. And their story about their emissions reduction, again, it's very local, but it's also very real. This is a national view of how CO2 emissions have declined due to the use and prominence of natural gas. Renewables is a part of that as well. But all right, Mike. And this is a story that we've already lived here in Roanoke, thankfully. If you go back in time to the 1980s and 1990s with our company, some of the folks that I'm sure you're familiar with, Frank Farmer and John Williamson. One of the gentlemen here mentioned Al Buckley earlier, Ed Dunbar. They really were quite visionary, and I can give you many examples of their forward thinking. But Roanoke, like a lot of older metropolitan areas in the United States, when it developed in the 1880s and natural gas developed in the I said 1980s, Bart, sorry. I saw Bart speak this morning. He mentioned his company started in 1983, and I've already gotten confused with our company, 1883. But in the late 1800s, obviously the building materials to transport natural gas were primarily cast iron, and then it moved into bare steel. And if you get into Baltimore and Philadelphia, they used wood pipes as an example. All this infrastructure was prone to leak, as you can imagine. And beginning in 1991 here in Roanoke, our company started replacing all that cast iron and bare steel pipe. We had over 200 miles of it, most of it in the downtown area in South Roanoke and Northwest Roanoke, as you can imagine, around the center of the city. We completed that effort. It was a 25-year program in 2016. And the emissions reduction from that effort was incredible. Again, all that pipe was prone to leak. And if you lived over in the South Roanoke area, as an example, that was all low pressure, cast iron and bare steel. There was a lot of leaking gas over there, to be honest. So Bart mentioned the investment there and the diligence to start that, frankly, 15 years before most of the folks around the country got into this program. The larger cities in the Northeast are still doing these replacements. Very slow. It's very expensive, and we're ahead of that, thankfully. Yes, sir.
Pipes made of
Polyethylene plastic. They're yellow primarily. We still do use some coated steel pipe with obviously improved construction methods, fewer seams, and things of that nature. So there is still steel pipe that is still being used, but most of the pipe is polyethylene plastic. Good question. AI and data centers. I almost didn't put this in here, Mike, but I thought, well, why not? I was afraid everybody may be going to sleep by this point. And we don't hear much about this, do we? Whether it's locally or nationally or in our state. It really is the flavor of the day, as you know. But this just ties back into the electricity narrative and the energy narrative. And the reality is natural gas for the next 5 to 10 years, as this segment of the economy continues to grow and has further energy needs, natural gas is going to be a large part of that. You see more move to what they call on-site generation. In other words, folks or these data centers or companies generating their own electricity using natural gas. We're seeing that in some other states. We haven't really seen that in Virginia yet, and we don't believe that's at this point going to be the case in Botetourt. I think it's been publicly acknowledged that AEP and Google have an agreement there. But it is truly the flavor of the month right now. Manufacturing. I don't think we hear as much about this. Again, the AI data center narrative really is overwhelming almost everything else, it feels like. But there's been incredible manufacturing investment in this country in the last 3 to 5 years. We've seen that locally, again, I think with Virginia Transformer as an example. Munters, the large company out in Botetourt that makes equipment that actually supplies some of the data center industry. We just had a fantastic announcement come out of the Roanoke Regional Partnership a few days ago with Ringana, an Austrian company that's going to locate here in the city, create 400 jobs, and spend $85 million. They do cosmeceuticals, is how they refer to it. It's a blend of it's skin cream, but it has in addition to beauty aspects, it also has some health aspects too. But so again, there's what's that? Magic. That's what they tell you. That's right. Yeah. I haven't tried any yet, President Montgomery, but we'll see. But again, it is a great story. If you talk to John Hull and the folks at the Roanoke Regional Partnership, almost every major prospect, and Mike's always at the table too through the Water Authority, but any major prospect that's considering Roanoke needs natural gas. They need, of course, water, electricity, and fiber. We cannot forget fiber. And so bringing it back a little closer to home, as Bart said, we trace our beginnings to the founding of the city of Roanoke. And it's quite a remarkable history. We just celebrated our 140th anniversary 3 years ago. We are publicly traded. You know, there's only two companies in the Roanoke Valley that are headquartered here that are publicly traded now, Optical Cable being the other. We listed on NASDAQ all the way back in 1994. John Williamson led that effort. We registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, in 1965. So again, we've been a publicly traded, shareholder-owned company for over 60 years now. The company was stock-owned prior to 1965, but it was closely held by a very small number of individuals. So proud to call Roanoke home, and proud to still be headquartered here. Our RGC midstream subsidiary, and we'll talk about Mountain Valley Pipeline, is the entity that has the investment in MVP. Yeah, let's talk about MVP first, and then we'll move over to Roanoke Gas. I think everybody's familiar with Mountain Valley at this point. It's interesting. About once a week, I was telling Bart this the other day. Somebody asked me, "Is the Mountain Valley finished? Is it flowing gas?" Well, it's actually been finished for over 2 years, and that's okay. That's a good thing. We've said all along when it got finished and it was buried underground and the construction wrapped up and the right of way was restored, that it would flow gas and you wouldn't know. And that's sure enough what's happened. It's had a spectacular safety record. The environmental record has also been spectacular. None of that's surprising to us. Last week during the heat wave, it was flowing almost 2 billion cubic feet a day of natural gas through that pipe. Almost all of that for electricity generation at this time of the year. During the winter, the pipe is full every day of natural gas. There's no question in terms of the economic development opportunity for this region. We were gas starved. We did not have enough natural gas to lure, if you will, or entice any of these prospects from an economic development standpoint. That has changed with the Mountain Valley, and we'll talk about Franklin County in just a minute. There's go ahead, Mike. Thank you. There's two projects. This is all public information. It's been in the press. Expansions of the original Mountain Valley. The first is the Southgate project. It's co-located with the Transco pipeline running from Chatham just across the North Carolina border. That project's under construction today. It started about 3 weeks ago. They're hoping to have it finished by the end of this year. So it's frankly easy construction. It's again co-locating, so it's a brownfield project. And you all know that part of the world is fairly flat, less rocky than this part of the world. So they're making good progress right now on getting that pipe installed. The primary customers off of that project, Duke Energy actually is one of the large customers. You've probably heard a little bit about the Boost project. It was in the news 2 or 3 weeks ago on a permitting matter. And I thought it's helpful to show you this group, the map. This one is in our backyard. If you're familiar with Route 11 or 460 moving west toward Christiansburg, when you cross the Roanoke River, you leave Roanoke, go by Mike's Spring Hollow Reservoir, and you leave Roanoke County and enter into Montgomery County. Just to the left, there's a large area. It's known as the Apgar property. And you may remember 16 or 17 years ago, that was the proposed Norfolk Southern intermodal area right before the Ironto exit on Interstate 81. Mountain Valley during construction had what we called a large swimming pool there. They had a huge tank there if you drove by it. It was 3 million gallons. It's what they used to hydrostatic test the pipe. And they also had a laydown yard there. Old Virginia Brick, where you see the green triangle on the slide, also used to have a site there that they acquired product to make bricks 100 years ago. That's where the Boost compressor station is going to be located. So the gray square that you see on the map, that's Rowe Furniture, just across the road there. So that's in the permitting phase right now. They're hoping to start construction in 2027. It's a good project, $400 to $500 million of investment. Again, it's in Montgomery County. If you talk to Richard Kaywood, he's like, gosh, couldn't they have just moved it a few hundred feet into Roanoke County? He wants the tax base, obviously. But it is in Montgomery County. Roanoke Gas. So we'll look at our customer count here in just a few minutes. We're mostly residential customers by count, but by gas throughput, very much commercial and industrial. And we'll look at our top customers in a second. Go ahead, Mike, click the button there. When we go around the country, we have shareholders in all 50 states and a few foreign countries. And it's been this way for a long time. And I'll tie this in, Bart, to the VBR, Roanoke Regional Partnership Branding Initiative. I don't know if you all have talked about that with this group, but people ask, where's Roanoke? And it's amazing. A certain number of people thought Roanoke Island, North Carolina. Aren't you all the lost colony? No, we're not the lost colony. And I'm not kidding. It took us a few years to realize we have to put a map in our investor presentations so we can show people where Roanoke is. 200 miles due west of Richmond, 320 miles southwest of Washington. That helped a little. We finally got a little smarter, and I call this the Michael Vick effect, even though that's waning. We had to put Virginia Tech on the map. Oh, yeah, Virginia Tech, they play football. You're close to Virginia Tech. And when we put the VT, you can see it's small, but when we put the VT logo on there, it wasn't a problem. And again, there's a whole story about the branding initiative that was just announced when I think the example they use, Bart, is when you're in Phoenix and somebody asks you where you're from, over half the survey respondents said Roanoke, right? And that was really telling, I thought, very telling. But you all know where we are. We don't have to dwell on the map, I hope, for this crowd. We have had a good year. This is sort of looking back over the last 12 months. Last year was a record year for gas delivered for Roanoke Gas. We're very proud of that. Roanoke Cement, frankly, was a big part of that with their switch from coal. Bart mentioned this. We do continue to have an excellent safety record. Safety is our number one priority. Public safety, our employee safety, our customer safety. We focus and spend a lot of time and money and energy on that every day. Our system has been incredibly reliable. We'll talk about the investment in the system a little more. We mentioned our replacement of the cast iron bare steel and the low pressure. That made a huge difference in the reliability of the system. We did a neat project over the last 3 or 4 years with the Roanoke Redevelopment Housing Authority. They had a sort of an old antiquated gas system and 5 of their properties that they were operating, and through a nice cooperation with them, we were able to put new systems on those properties and then take ownership of those, so they would not be burdened with the maintenance and regulatory upkeep on that. We finished that project last year, and I put this in here just for Bart. We have been spending money on computers, actually, and time and energy. Put in a new general ledger and accounting and purchasing system last year. Our logo is actually new and refreshed. Access U and Tony Pierman helped us with that. I think they did a great job with our new logos and our new colors, and updated our website too. I'd encourage you to check it out, roanokegas.com. And then we went live just this spring with a new customer service system. Mike knows this. He runs a large organization with a lot of customers. If any of you've done new system implementations, there's nothing easy about those. I'd say they're probably about the hardest things we've tried to tackle in the last 2 to 3 years. Go ahead there. Thank you. Bart mentioned this as well, and I had to keep this in here. We've had such a great relationship with Mike and the Western Virginia Water Authority for years, and going back to Gary Robertson when Gary was with Mike there. But this is a whole nother day of presentation. Maybe Mike and I'll do this together sometime. But what Mike and Scott Shirley and their team have done out there to invest in their facility, and then to cooperate together on this renewable natural gas. That's what RNG means. Facility's really been special. Mike can tell you we've had national inquiries about this and national press. And as a matter of fact, I think a month and a half ago, Mike and I toured one of the state corporation commissioners through the facility with the Virginia SEC. And we have not had a Virginia SEC commissioner come make a personal visit since I'd been at the gas company. So it was very special, and appreciate Mike helping with that. But it's been a great project. We've reduced a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. Mike has through his investment in the digesters, and then that methane, if you will, or brown gas, as we call it, coming out of the digesters through our RNG facility, which turns it into pipeline quality gas. It's been really good. We had record production last year, and we're having a good year again this year. So again, we just appreciate Mike and his team and all their cooperation on that project. I joke about this, but it's true, and Mike may joke about it too. You would be amazed at the people that say, I'd like to take a tour of the sewer treatment plant. And Mike, we give tours almost once a month. I mean, it's, again, people from all over, and it's amazing. And Mike and his team do a great tour. They've got a world-class facility there. I think that's one of the, I know it's one of the hidden gems of our Roanoke Valley. The Water Authority is not a hidden gem, right? You all just celebrated your 20th anniversary and the great work they do, but the facilities they own and operate, they just work, right? if you think about Richmond, Virginia, the issue they had last year, some of the other uh, just outside the DC area, Mike, right over the winter, they had a large sewer pipe rupture, empty into the Potomac River. Terrible things. We don't have that here. A lot of that's due to the good work at the Water Authority. One of the graphics that we discovered over the last few years that we needed to put together, particularly for our elected officials, whether they were local or in the General Assembly, and certainly our federal elected officials, are the folks that use natural gas. And you all, of course, recognize all these names and logos. Obviously, the three large hospital systems headquartered here, those are all three top 10 customers by gas usage. And a lot of people are amazed by that, but what do you need in the hospital? Linens, hot water, towels, on and on and on. Heat, preferably heat. It makes sense, actually. So they're all very large gas customers. You can see the great manufacturing companies on the right. Even our localities here with all their real estate footprint, schools in particular. Schools cook and need heat. They use a tremendous amount of natural gas. And of course, the colleges. UPS is kind of a neat story. About 10 years ago, they converted their fleet, their little brown trucks. You've probably seen it, compressed natural gas. They don't use diesel fuel anymore. That's been a great story too. A lot of emissions reduction there, and they've been happy with that. Customer growth, despite some of the national narrative, our experience is every day folks want natural gas, particularly, I would say almost every single new home built in the Roanoke Valley in the last 10 years has installed natural gas, and we're pleased with that and want to do our part to support that. It's a real component of the affordability narrative. Again, back to natural gas being cheap, it really is great, affordable energy. Again, we continue to have good customer growth. Just a little bit of deliverability history from the company. Again, you can see the star there last year where we set a record, but the Roanoke Valley's really been resilient, I would say. It's been steady. Yokohama closing earlier this year is the first, I would say, in our case, large gas user that's left the Roanoke Valley in the last 20 years. And we were sad to, see them go. They'd been here 60 years, I believe, maybe 65. They'd had a long, proud history here, but hopeful that a new someone else will move into that facility. But again, it's been steady. Bart mentioned this, the investment in the company, we just have steadily, I would say, steady as she goes, continue to invest in the company. We're doing two large projects right now, one in Hunting Hills and the other in a area called Hyde Park. Hyde Park's a VDOT moniker. It's actually near Oak Grove off of 419, where we're replacing first generation plastic with the new polyethylene pipe. First generation plastic was manufactured by DuPont in the late 1960s, early 1970s, called Adelaide plastic. It is prone to be brittle and crack, and the federal regulators require that to be replaced. So we've been working on that for a few years around the valley. Presently, we're over again in Hunting Hills and just off 419 at Oak Grove. Regional opportunities. We talked a little bit about Google there. Again, we're not. I don't believe they're going to use natural gas in a meaningful way. Probably some building heat and some water. Nothing extraordinary there. There's things happening in Montgomery County in the eastern side of it. Actually, just past the road furniture area that we were looking at previously. What I call the Elliston Straightaway. At least that's what we referred to it when I was growing up. There's potential housing development there. That's not secret. That's going through the permitting process in Montgomery County, and possibly a quite large housing development there that will, of course, want natural gas. And Franklin County, with some of you in Rocky Mount, some of you, Mike and I spend a lot of time talking about this off and on. with Franklin County. There is gas in some of you now because of the Mountain Valley Pipeline. We've got a beautiful gas station there. And that's a beautiful property. You may have seen it if you've traveled down 220 South, just halfway between Roanoke and Rocky Mount. If you have a chance and you have a few minutes, I would encourage you to drive in and look around. It really is magnificent and well suited, for great success. I think I know Mike and his team have been doing some water and sewer work down there as well. AEP's doing some electric upgrade there. So we're excited about the future there. A lot of interest. I would say they've had, to use a fishing analogy, they've had a lot of nibbles at the bait there, but they haven't hooked somebody yet. But that's okay. I think they're being patient and they're going to attract the right economic development there. There's a fair amount of housing around there. We're gauging that. We'd like to run gas service outside of the park too. Rocky Mount, we've had discussions off and on with them for the last 2 years, and we're still working on that. We've actually met with Senator Stanley and Delegate Davis and the county and town folks there. You can see the dark green lines, the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Rocky Mount's approximately 10 miles from the pipe there. We think it 2 minutes. All right. Good news. This is the last one. We're still working with them, and we think with a little bit of help, possibly from the state government and some other opportunities there, we'll get the funding to run gas into Rocky Mount. Rocky Mount has never had natural gas. With that, I think that concludes my remarks, but happy to take any questions if anybody has any burning curiosities. And I'd love to answer a question about the water authority if you want. While I have the microphone. Yeah. Yes, sir. How's the stock doing? Thank you for the question. It's actually better. I haven't checked it today. I'll give you a little bit of a longer answer to that. In the early part of this decade, 2020, 2021, 2022, it struggled. And a lot of that was due to the Mountain Valley Pipeline struggles. There were questions about whether the pipeline would be finished at all. Was it going to be abandoned? And I think that was reflected in the stock price very clearly. Since the Mountain Valley's been finished and the cash flow is now coming to us from that investment instead of going out, and some of the other growth opportunities here, we've seen I would say a proper rebound in the stock price. I think we're trading around $24 a share. We closed yesterday, I think, just a tad below $24. So on a price earnings basis and a dividend yield, we're about 18, got an 18 PE, and our dividend yields under 4%, but we're right there with our peers. So we're okay with the stock. It can always be higher, right? Always be higher, but we're pretty happy with it today. Oh, well, I'm not surprised. We leaked out that we
So how much of the gas distributed comes out of the APP?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now we take about 5% of our daily throughput from the Mountain Valley. We're actually doing a large project now. The pipe's being delivered in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be steel pipe, actually, a big 12-inch steel pipe to increase the amount of gas we are able to take from Mountain Valley and introduce it into Roanoke. Great question. We're not taking our maximum amount right now. We're not able to move that much gas physically. That's what the project's going to help us do. Yep, good question.
One more.
Yes.
If
Oh,
there's one more.
Any
One
more
question.
questions?
If not,
Yes,
there it
sir.
is.
Yeah, let me make sure I heard the question again. I'm sorry. Sure. Yeah, I think the question was, is natural gas still supplanting coal, or has that slowed down due to some federal action? Yeah, that's a great question too. Yeah, I mean, I think we've all heard President Trump say things that are pro coal. at least from my seat, the reality is that it hadn't changed anything. And I'd even just add a tidbit. If you go back to the first Trump administration, there were lots of things that were said about pro fossil fuels and pro natural gas. Nothing changed, to be honest. It was all talk. I think what is still driving the coal to natural gas switch, it is the economics, it is emissions still matter. Many of the large electric companies, Duke Power, Dominion, AEP, have plans that they're working with the regulators and with FERC to replace coal with either natural gas, renewables, or nuclear. So I think those are still steady state. It's a great question. Again, the press is different. I think the rhetoric maybe is the right word. The rhetoric is different than the actions. Hard to burn coal in a UPS truck. As far as I know, that's correct. Yes, that's right. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all this great information. He has asked for his honorarium to go to Total Action for Progress tab. So there you go. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you all for this. You didn't need to do that, but that's very kind and much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. All right. Next week, our speaker will be Leadership Roanoke Valley, Eric Sitchow. So we shall see you next week for the Chambers Talk. Thank you. Oh, the card. The card is being passed around.